So this is part A of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, Baby Angel Geronimo editions. And today's world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, the so-called British newspapers that are actually the collection published from addresses in Fleet Street in the city of London. And we are continuing the designation of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions, because 4 years of lying by the congenital liar Boris Johnson fronted cabal of criminals at the depraved central government department called DEFRA, depraved DEFRA, affects every single decision made in the name of the so-called government fronted by the congenital liar Boris Johnson. So that's the reason why Boris Johnson's lying, the depraved DEFRA, as fronted by the criminal liar George Injustice. So those things are absolutely central to the duties of the state in whose name the congenital liar Boris Johnson fronts the cabal, and within which the depraved DEFRA and its criminals, including the criminal liar George Injustice, have their careers. And they've been for 4 years, at least for 4 years, if not for longer. These criminals have been doing evil things against the most innocent being on the face of the planet, Baby Angel Geronimo. Are we making up the concept of evil intentions? Most certainly not. On page 2 of today's Daily Mail, there is this phrase, evil intentions. Evil intentions by the UK government. So that is the admission of the existence of evil intentions, although it's within quotation marks. But the evil intentions by the UK state fronted by Boris Johnson is on page 2 of the Daily Mail. And the Daily Mail is one of the longest running couriers, that is carriers, containers, conveyors of the evil message. The evil intentions, an evil message, an evil agenda on behalf of the crooks and the evildoers that include the depraved DEFRA. So that's the Beijing accuses UK of evil intentions. Let's cut out the Beijing and the actual particular strategic kind of reason for Beijing to use the evil intentions. But evil intentions are there as a concept in the behavior, in the operations of the part or parts of the UK state. And the evil intentions have been rampant against baby angel Geronimo for the last at least 4 years. When the imperial kind of standoff between the then still British kind of territory of Hong Kong, British within quotation marks, let's say, Hong Kong, was taking place, and the Conservatives had the governor, former Conservative MP and minister. So this man was condemned by Beijing, nothing to do with our agreeing with them or not. That is not the point. The point is that Beijing accused the then British governor of Hong Kong. They accused him of being a prostitute, and they ran that accusation against him over a number of years. And so today's Daily Mail, talking about the UK state, that is the government, not the actual state as is covered by the fact that the state is headed by Brenda, also known as the Queen Elizabeth II. It's the state, the government department, like the so-called defense department fronted by the liar who was caught as lying and being stupid over Afghanistan in the last month. Ben Wallace. And so the concept of evil intentions as ascribed to the UK state is very much well known to those at the receiving end of the evil behavior within the UK or at any other kind of international platform. The Daily Mail is acknowledging the accusation by the Chinese, but the Daily Mail hasn't acknowledged literally thousands of accusations made by the victims of evil intentions as operated by criminals holding positions in various parts of the UK government departments. So to bring home the concept of evil intentions, we are just showing this because the evidence of the last calendar 5 years, let's say, of the behavior of DEFRA, the depraved, the criminals holding the decision-making positions in the department called DEFRA, which is, on the evidence, on the facts, guilty of being depraved. So we shall come back to that accusation by the Chinese. But let's look at this front page of the Sun. And it sums up this headline, and the map sums up the evidence of not fit for purpose evidence of not being fit for purpose. That is Johnson. And what they're saying is that there are contradictions, there are blatant contradictions. Call in the army, don't call in the army. Panic, bury head in the sun, don't panic. And it says drivers confused by petrol U-turns. Now, who is the criminal that is denying what the Sun? The Sun is the owner of the government, let's say. Rupert Murdoch is the owner of the government, the Conservatives. As the evidence given by Rebecca Brooks and others before the Levison inquiry, they confirmed that Murdoch, acting through Rebecca Brooks, controlled the government, owned the government, the British government. And Tony Blair was as close physically as David Cameron was to Rebecca Brooks. It wasn't a kind of suggestion, it was open. So the scum owns the government. The scum, remember the word scum? We have been using this scum word against this title long before Angela Rayner even was heard of or was known as any source of anything politically. And there are these confessions about the dysfunction by the Johnson-fronted cabal. Bear with us. So why is this criminal, this is the injustice, this criminal, this is the picture of the criminal, George Injustice. There is the criminal. There. He is in denial today, even in the scum, he is in denial. He is saying that there is no real crisis about shortage of anything, drivers or fuel or whatever. This is the liar who has been lying against baby angel Geronimo. And the scum which is condemning him in effect by exposing his stupid denial of the existence of the absolutely overwhelming evidence of shortage in everything. And they've been, the scum and the rest of Fleet Street has been repeating the lies against baby angel Geronimo that this criminal, Eustace, has been mouthing, uttering, issuing. So this is the diagnosis of Fleet Street. And what we are saying is that the lies against baby angel Geronimo were clear warnings to the population in this country about lies, other lies that they would be perpetrating. And they have now managed to catch this liar lying about this absolutely undeniable shortage, crisis, shortage of drivers, shortage of fuel. So this is the heading on the front page by Harry Cole, the political editor of this scum. Drivers faced confusion over the petrol crisis after a day of panic, U-turns, and government chaos. I mean, that is their language, not ours, but that is their admission. That is their admission there. And that admission is over the head, literally, of the congenital liar, complicit in the lies against baby angel Geronimo with the liar, George Injustice, and other criminals like Christine Middlemiss, the criminal, in post as the chief bat. And it is so bad that one driver paid £217 for petrol in tank and 8 jerry cans. And are saying that fuel thieves are siphoning petrol. Huge queues cause gridlock. And they say 1 mile length of queues. Some drivers had to wait in. And they're saying that this is crude awakening. Motorists face more pain at the pumps after the cost of crude oil hit a 3-year high of $79 a barrel yesterday. A liter of unleaded has already gone up by a penny since Friday, according to the Royal Automobile Company. And more hikes could lie ahead. The cost of crude is the biggest factor in determining pump prices, the motoring organization said. It comes as some forecourts around the country took advantage of the fuel crisis to raise prices. A fuel spokesman for the RAC said, when it comes to pump prices, it's a pretty bleak picture. Well, they can say that again. When it comes to getting this depraved DEFRA and the criminal Justice Injustice, who is still saying, as the scum is quoting him, earlier Environment Secretary George Eustice had claimed there have been some shortages of HGV drivers getting petrol to forecourts, but actually that is quite limited, and they are mocking him. Labour Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves said ministers were asleep at the wheel over the crisis. Now, of course they are asleep. But so has the Labour Party been asleep about the lying, intentional criminal lies against baby angel Geronimo that the same man, Eustace, had been perpetrating ever since he became incumbent in that post after Gove shifted. So, what we are saying is that the word scum that Angela Rayner belatedly has actually used against Johnson and the rest of the conservatives is not something that needs any explanation at all, because most people experiencing the lies at the hands of the scum know that they are scum. So the question is, if they know that they are scum, how is it that the scum is in position as the so-called government? We shall be continuing to discuss scum and the criminality of George Injustice, and the realization by the Murdoch scum that injustice, George Injustice, the depraved DEFRA occupant, is a criminal against all evidence. All evidence, every ministry, every statement is saying that the country is in a state of crisis caused by the shortage of HGV drivers as well as shortage of fuel. Now, as we said yesterday, we shall not be making any comments about Sabina Begum's murderer or the charging of the criminal, the Albanian murderer, with her murder. That is our constitutional law and procedural decision not to make a comment on an ongoing, let's say, investigation. And we shall not be contributing any speculation. That is a policy decision by our campaign, while at the same time we continue and we shall continue to wish Sabina Nessa eternal peace and rest. Eternal peace and eternal rest. And we shall do this until we are convinced on the evidence that comments can be made in our framework, not because somebody else is telling us. We are deciding because what Sabina Nessa deserves is justice. Whoever did this to her should be subjected to the most rigorous consequence. While you recognize that the comments by people who are correctly concerned about the violence being done against women in this country, it is absolutely important not to lose sight of the fact that Sabina is a person and she deserves the fullest justice in her own rights. And we shall not add to any other comments at this stage, as we said. Personally, it is very upsetting for everyone that has been affected by this murder. So it's not easy to talk about any aspect of Sabina Nessa. at this stage in this time. All we can say is that exchanging insults like the charade at Brighton, where the conservative kind of correspondents have been mocking Angela Rayner for calling Johnson and the others conservative scum. That can, to them, appear entertaining, but it is the lives of people like Sabina and other innocent people whose lives have been affected by the lying and the evil agenda and the evil behavior of the government fronted by Boris Johnson. The question is, what actions are being taken to protect people and to safeguard innocent lives? Now that question is answered by the fact that with this scum government, the threshold, the level of protection, if any, that the state provides to the innocent is very low. Which is why Sabina Nessa could be murdered by that murderer or by her murderer. As we have been saying, there is no evidence in this country, and most certainly not in London, of the existence of a program about respecting lives, respecting people. Many of the murders have taken place so far in broad daylight, not far from other people, as this murder of Sabina Nessa has been done. And that is because the culture that is allowed is a culture of ignorance about the impact and the implications of behavior towards other people, whether it's based on gender, whether it's based on ethnicity, whether it's based on people being incited to hate other people. We cannot say at this stage to what extent this murderer was kind of influenced by the narrative, by the agenda that is linked with the criminal hatred, contempt expressed by Boris Johnson against Muslim women wearing burqas. We cannot say, but even if Sabina Nessa was not wearing a burqa, other aspects of her appearance could be kind of put together in the mind of the murderer that created the image of her as a Muslim woman. We cannot say that, but it's not difficult to imagine that could have been a factor. We don't know that, as we say. And this is one of the reasons why We don't want to talk at this stage about Sabina Nessa, especially after the arrest and the reported charging of this individual with her murder. But society generally is left unprotected from the evil that is lurking around. Now, the people in a democracy, so-called, expect the occupants in the various state posts, like the depraved DEFRA occupant, George Injustice, to provide responsible, caring guidance. Now, judging by the denial that he is making of this absolutely overwhelming crisis, Injustice should be prosecuted. He should be sacked and prosecuted for criminal irresponsibility towards the public safety and public's right to be served with basic services. If somebody like George Injustice can deny something like the overwhelming crisis and the shortages, then it doesn't need any deeper evidence to conclude that this is the man that would have gone along with the random murderous errand against the most innocent baby angel Geronimo. This is the man. It's not like he's just talking about the environment. He's denying countrywide crisis that is almost paralyzing transport, paralyzing the basic transport needed by nurses, doctors, and other key workers. That is in the coverage in the press, because it is not a coverage that the press is making out of kindness. It's absolutely the basic facts. The country is being paralyzed, and this George Injustice is denying the fact that there is a paralytical crisis hitting motorists, transport, and key workers. This is the man that Fleet Street has been failing to question about years of his lying and denial against baby angel Geronimo. This is the man. This is the man who is unfit to be quoted, and yet he has been quoted without any condition when he has been lying repeatedly against the most healthy, the most beautiful baby angel Geronimo. When he can deny the existence of the fuel crisis, the existence of the thousands and thousands of heavy goods vehicle drivers vacancies, then he can deny the truth about baby angel Geronimo, who has been absolutely in the best health. So now that he has done that, we demand that this criminal be sacked and prosecuted over his lies. And he be sacked and he be made to pay to Geronimo the equivalent. What can be enough equivalent for lying against the baby angel Geronimo? What amount? No amount exists in mathematics that can actually be enough to compensate for the lies of depraved Defra and the criminal George Injustice against baby angel Geronimo over the last 4 years. But he should be made an example of. For eternity. It's not like he has stopped talking against baby angel Geronimo. He is now denying that there is a fuel crisis, that there is a driver's crisis. So there is no need to prove any additional unfitness, criminality, evil that George Eustace is. I mean, he's the one who is coming forward with his lying. And that's the pattern. He's a liar. He's a wanton, brazen, intentional, evil liar who doesn't care about the problems that people are having to kind of deal with. Problems of shortage, problems of huge, massive pile-ups on the main motorways. So this is the position, this is the evidence. All supporters of the campaign for justice for baby angel Geronimo must use this evidence and force the evil-doing regime out of office, sack them, prosecute them, sue them, make them pay for the lies against baby angel Geronimo. And the fact that there is no warning, there was no essential warning anywhere. Let's look at this state of the reclaim these streets people saying. This is absolutely true what they're saying, that women must be safe. But I would say that women must not be left in the position where they have to campaign for the streets to be made safe and for their lives to be automatically safeguarded by society. Where is the evidence that what I am saying is being said by the Labour Party? There is no evidence. Why? Because the Labour Party doesn't exist. Starmer has politically murdered the Labour Party. So Starmer is like the current kind of form of Ian Dracula Duncan Smith. Now, what is the connection between Keir Starmer, Dracula Duncan Smith? There is a closer connection between the two killers than may appear to be the case. Older viewers of this program may have noticed that we have given extensive references to the fact that Keir Starmer, when he was finishing the 5-year term as the Director of Public Prosecutions just before he left office. Around 2013. Starmer actually added new requirements, new kind of guidelines for criminal law, because the Director of Public Prosecutions is the post in the Crown Prosecution Service that actually heads the Crown Prosecution Service. So all the criminal prosecution decisions have to be cleared, authorized by the Crown Prosecution Service and the DPP in the form of his deputies, etc. But Starmer, before he left in 2013, added additional hurdles against the most vulnerable people under the guise that he was doing so to deter fraudulent claimants for benefits. Now, all the evidence of the operation, the budget, and the kind of profiles of the people who are forced to claim benefits from the deprivation, want, and poverty creation, in other words, DWP, all the people who have to claim or are forced to claim benefits are in the lowest kind of imaginable position in terms of being able to get any financial support from anywhere else. So Starmer, targeted those people so that he could criminalize, he could make it an offense, anything that he could find to use against the poorest, the most vulnerable, and treat their poverty, their desperation, as constituting their criminality. Think about that, what I've just said. Being poor or being among the poorest in the UK was being made a crime by Keir Starmer. Has any of the coverage from the Brighton conference so far even remotely mentioned this? No. So this is one of the reasons why we call this program, this diagnosis, world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, because Fleet Street papers haven't mentioned Keir Starmer making the being poor a criminal offense. Why does it matter? Because it's a matter of life and death. As happened with thousands of people who were sanctioned by the then incumbent in the post of Secretary of State at the DWP, Ian, we call him Dracula Duncan Smith. Thousands of people were forced to commit suicide. Or, to put it another way, thousands of people claiming because they had no other way of surviving. Thousands of people were forced to contemplate killing themselves. And the actual number of people who did commit suicide as a result of the use of the DWP benefit control, the number is not yet fully known. Let's look at what is available, what is accessible by way of information about that. So look at this. This is an admission. This is an admission in the heading to this
Just
piece.
want to know why and how they could let it happen, really.
We don't know for certain, but it's likely that the peer review that was carried out has now been destroyed and you won't be able to see it.
Yeah, well, that was a bit of a shock, but it doesn't surprise me at all because they're just trying to cover up all the other peer reviews as well.
So the DWP destroyed the evidence of the kind of documents that listed the people who committed suicide because of its sanctions. So in addition to today's Daily Mail reporting about China accusing UK of evil intentions, the DWP has been carrying out evil intentions plans for years. Not only did it force people to contemplate suicide, but after the uncounted numbers of people did commit suicide, the department destroyed their documents, their evidence. So you cannot hold it to account. So let's look at the 4 things that we can list at this stage. When Chris Cook, the senior reporter who returned to the Financial Times after a few years of absence, he wrote a notebook piece dated the 30th of August, 2021, just last month, in which he said that the UK central government officials were going to great lengths to keep the secret. That was in the context of the court case that Chris Cook began his piece by referring to. The court case was actually made public in the report by Mr. Justice Charles, a tribunal charge, in 2015. And Chris Cook himself later had come across obstructions by the government department to requests made by him and others, quite lawfully according to the Freedom of Information Act, about official secrets. So when baby angel Geronimo was lied against about his state of health, lied by the department depraved DEFRA, requests on behalf of baby angel Geronimo, any number of requests were made for the depraved DEFRA to make information available under the law, under the official Freedom of Information Act, as well as other legal kind of framework. And the depraved DEFRA refused, denied the information. So this was not a one-off thing. It has been happening any number of times against baby angel Geronimo by the depraved DEFRA. And Fleet Street has known. If Chris Cook can say that the central government department employees are going to extraordinary lengths to deny information, to disclose official secrets about their operations, then others did that too, because the ruling by Mr. Justice Charles in the tribunal case was about requests made by others, not by Chris Cook himself. And anyone who is familiar with the regime operated by, let's say, local councils or central government department or any other public body to provide information in response to requests made by people exercising their apparent right under Freedom of Information Act. Anyone who has significant experience of doing that, trying to get information, knows that the UK public bodies are not transparent, not honest, not compliant with the law. In other words, they are behaving, to use two-word phrase, with evil intentions to deny the most legitimate aspects of the information. And Chris Cook also has referred to the Information Commissioner. Now, the office or the post of Information Commissioner is directly a result of the existence of the Freedom of Information Act. And the Information Commissioner, who currently happens to be a woman from Canada. Now, remember what happens with Canadian women or Canadian career persons being given posts in the UK. They bend over backwards. They bend over backwards because they are imports from other countries. They bend over backwards in order to safeguard their jobs. The scandal of the post office is one that is absolutely, indescribably akin to the evil that is done against the victims of their evil. And so the depraved DEFRA and its depravity against baby angel Geronimo has been going on for too long. As I have said before, even lying against the perfectly healthy and perfectly innocent in every respect baby angel Geronimo was too much, once too many. And it should have been stopped from being repeated. As I said before, we're not going to discuss why it wasn't stopped, because we haven't got access to the actual evidence of what was done on behalf of baby angel Geronimo in the first few weeks of the depraved DEFRA starting the lying against him. We shall do that when we have been able to access the information and check the relevant information at that stage 4 years ago. The behavior of DEFRA, depraved DEFRA against baby angel Geronimo, is evil enough. But the behavior of the media, the behavior of the elected members of parliament in silence, maintaining silence in the face of this lying, depravity against baby angel Geronimo, makes it evil, makes the complete picture of evil complete, makes the picture of the evil complete, let's say. It's dark land, it's evil land. The providers of security and safety are behaving in destroying and denying security and safety. and nobody, the so-called fifth estate, that is the media, has been complicit for 4 years in the depraved DEFRA, retailing the lies against, the inventions against the perfectly healthy, perfectly innocent, the beautiful baby angel Geronimo. So as Keir Starmer converted people being in poverty as crime, their crime, depraved DEFRA has converted baby angel Geronimo as being in the best possible health as being baby angel Geronimo's crime, his illness, his disease. That is the sickness of the evil doers, the dark doers. That is the reality of the behavior of the scum, individually and collectively, organizationally and institutionally and personally. And that includes the so-called independent judiciary. There is no justice in the judiciary, for a start. And Fleet Street has repeatedly, criminally, irresponsibly, and falsely and intentionally, knowingly, negligently, callously misstated to readers when it has said the judge refused the application, Geronimo's application, or the judge did this, without actually telling the readers that the judge didn't look at the evidence. The judge behaved as the evil rubber stamp of the evil regime at depraved DEFRA. So what did they look for, the so-called Fleet Street, the media? Every time depraved DEFRA issued a statement against baby angel Geronimo, they just repeated the lies contained in the statement without going back to the depraved DEFRA and asking them for evidence. They have never done that. They should be doing it now, but so far they haven't done that. One of the kind of classical or kind of conventional conditions that had to be understood by every trainee kind of reporter, journalist. One of the things that used to be the purpose, or used to be taught as a purpose, or the main task of journalism was this: what, whatever order, what, where, when, why, and other questions like that. Those basic questions or the basic conditions had to be met for a piece of writing, as a piece of report, or as a report, to be valid. Fleet Street has been callously denying all of those. Whenever the depraved DEFRA has issued a statement against baby angel Geronimo, Fleet Street criminals have repeated. So, for example, this is the kind of I newspaper, and it's no exception. But Eustace thing, Injustice, George Injustice, is denying this. He's denying, and this is not a party political kind of conspiracy. And even the Beaverbrook legacy, the Daily Express, is saying absolute disgrace. Motorists ripped off by inflated petrol prices, says ex-minister. So there is a crisis. Now we are not, as we say, we are not discussing this stage, this particular part of the report about Sabina Nessa, except to wish her eternal peace. So going back to this one about the petrol pumps selling petrol at inflated prices, that is the outrage that is happening. But the depraved George Injustice is in denial. To him, this is not happening. Just like for the last 4 years, the depraved DEFRA has been denying that baby angel Geronimo is in perfect health and that he never has and never will do anything that the depraved DEFRA have accused him of being likely to do. There was no way, there has been no way that baby angel Geronimo could do anything, any of the things that the criminals at DEFRA have accused him of being likely to do. And this is the kind of picture of the Labour Party conference, so-called, that the Beaverbrook legacy of lies is painting. The slant is there, but the essential evidence is that Starmer has politically murdered the Labour Party. And they've got a headline in the editorial. There are 3 pieces of editorial comment. The middle one is Labour isn't working. Well, they're not saying what we have been saying, that Starmer has politically murdered the Labour Party. So therefore, there is no way that the Labour Party can provide any moral or ethical or compassionate narrative. And it's not just an opinion. When somebody asked Starmer about depraved Defra's lying against baby angel Geronimo, Starmer didn't hesitate before he endorsed the agenda the scum has been operating in making up things against baby angel Geronimo, defaming him, slandering him, libeling him, and cooking up false statements against the baby angel Geronimo. Now, as is the case with the, as I said, classic kind of education or training of journalists, used to be that you ask questions about the basic aspects of the event: who, where, what, why, etc., etc. Starmer didn't ask. Starmer immediately repeated the depraved position that Defra had been painting and propagating to violate the rights of baby angel Geronimo. So this is the week that the worst fuel crisis is building up. HGV drivers are absolutely in very short supply and availability. And these are the things that a correct, live, and honest, democratic opposition would have seized on. Starmer hasn't. Starmer is seizing on completing the political murder of the Labour Party. And this editorial, Labour isn't working, is only a tip of the iceberg of denial. They don't express, or the conservative scum don't want the Labour Party, and they don't want a working Labour Party. And they most certainly don't want, the Labour Party has got a narrative that is competent, compassionate, caring, and is dedicated to the preservation of the values of society and people's fairness, etc. Starmer is the wrong one. Starmer needs being sacked, and then he needs to be prosecuted for crimes, serial crimes he has committed against innocent people and innocent targets, including his criminality against the most innocent baby angel Geronimo. Starmer should be prosecuted for justice for baby angel Geronimo. And that should be one of the steps that need to be taken, must be taken, in order to bring life to society that the scum has been murdering with the collusion and complicity of the Dracula Keir Starmer and his follower Draculas like West Streeting and other right of center murderer agents of this scum narrative, pretending to be Labour Party. The Labour Party has been murdered. And there is a serial prosecution of a Labour MPs. Now this one is the sitting independent MP. She used to be Labour, but she is now no longer Labour because procedurally the party whip has been removed, thus exposing her to have to describe herself as an independent. This is the MP called Claudia Webb. Her name is spelled Webbe. So she is Claudia Webb, and the report here of the court proceedings yesterday, Monday, the report starts. A Labour MP, jealous of her partner's friendship with a woman, threatened that woman. I'm just kind of interpreting, not reading literally the words that have been written, because that won't be coming across very clear in the broadcast. So I'm reading again. A Labour MP, jealous of her partner's friendship with a woman, threatened that woman with acid and said she, the Labour MP, would send naked photos of that woman to that woman's family. A court was told yesterday. Claudia Webb is said to have called Michelle Merritt a slag in an alleged campaign of harassment. Claudia Webb was jealous of Miss Merritt's friendship with Webb's partner, and made silent phone calls to Miss Merritt's home, the court was told. Executive Assistant Miss Merritt wept as she told the court how Webb, 56, left her scared, fearful, afraid, and nervous. She had told police, "I have been threatened by a public figure with acid over the phone." Miss Merritt, 59, said she was so alarmed she took taxis to work to make her feel a little safer. Now, without going into any further details of that particular day's hearing, let's say that a person like Webb, who is still a member of parliament, can be prosecuted for this kind of offense, shows that those who become MPs or are allowed to become MPs are not necessarily fit individuals, fit even as neighbors or as members of the public. Too many MPs, not necessarily based on the actual prosecution or arrests, too many MPs are liars. So what do you do? For example, the liar MP for the constituency where baby angel Geronimo has his home in South Gloucestershire, he doesn't even, that criminal doesn't even answer questions or communications sent to him about the criminal behavior, dangerous behavior of the depraved DEFRA. Now, that's not an exception. Most members of parliament don't actually engage with constituents, despite the fact that when it comes to formally speaking on issues on the floor of the House of Commons, they say their constituents are concerned, this, that, and the other, and they always claim to be speaking or representing the concerns of their constituents, which is an absolute lie. When we checked with the House of Commons Information Office about the duties of members of parliament towards the electorate, the constituents, we were told, and we have been told, and that is the position as I speak, that MPs don't have to answer communications from constituents. That is as blatant, as open as that. So what on earth is the House of Commons for? Any democratic movement would deal with that and stop that impunity that is exercised by the elected members of parliament. Impunity from accountability. So it's not just the Labour Party is not working. The UK Parliament is not working, literally. You cannot demand that a member of Parliament answers your questions. What do? You can only do something that doesn't really actually safeguard your interests. You can only vote against a particular member of Parliament at the next available election. But most issues, like the threats that have been ongoing for years against baby angel Geronimo, most issues are not capable of being resolved by relying on the votes saying no. That doesn't work. So there is a big gap that the existence of an elected parliament represents. It's unfit for purpose. So it's not just Boris Johnson who is scum, unfit for purpose, but the entirety of the members of parliament are unfit for purpose. And there is nothing. No member of parliament has actually said anything against the depraved DEFRA, despite the fact that these MPs have known. And there is a over-the-top promotion picture of one of the worst MPs operating in the name of the Labour Party, called Rachel Reeves. She is a colluder with Keir Starmer, and she is not really a Labour Party in the sense of the values of the Labour Party, the founding values of the Labour Party person. And this picture by The Guardian depicts Rachel Reeves as a kind of film star or some kind of sportswoman. This is too flattering a photograph and too unjustified because of the role she has been playing in politically murdering the Labour Party. We just note that this Guardian on the front page has got Sabina's name on the right. And as we said before, we are not going to go into the details of the charging. We shall allow for the agencies responsible for holding the murderer or murderers to full account before we begin any particular analysis. And these are the 2 pages of The Guardian promoting Starmer. Now, there is a piece there about sleaze bars, because bars has been found that he has been found to have bullied a woman. But our position remains that sleaze bars is a career criminal. Now, sleaze bars is a career criminal on all counts and all evidence. I mean, he apologized. Sleaze bars apologized in Tower Hamlets in the 1980s. And the apology was the direct result of my demanding at public meeting, where he was wrongly invited as a guest, that if he didn't apologize for a remark, stupid, corrupt criminal, poisonous remark that he had made, he would not be able to leave the meeting until he apologized. And the person who chaired the meeting said to him publicly that Keith Vaz must apologize to a member of the meeting. And Sleaze Vaz did apologize to a member of the meeting. So that was in the 1980s. That was in the 1980s. So the 90s, that was more than 30 years ago. So this criminal, we have been campaigning on the record. And Sleaze Vaz was correctly identified as a liar and a crook more than 30 years ago in Tower Hamlets. That's world exclusive. The Guardian never has published that fact, but that is a fact. Now, the financial crimes today has got the two words together: government failure. And the editorial in the Financial Times today, well, first we'll talk about the editorial. And the editorial says, the first one, well, this is the financial crimes that has been peddled by the current holder of the post of editor, the Lebanese Muslim-born woman, Rola Khalaf, as the Bible of capitalism, or capitalist Bible, or Bible for capitalism. And it has got this statement under the mast: without fear and without favor. That's a pack of lies. The financial crimes, as we call it, doesn't operate without fear and without favor. It operates with collaboration, collusion, complicity with the criminals in capitalism, big business. It says, memo to Johnson, pre-Nez, on grip. A hard-won reputation for competence can be very quickly lost. First came gaps on supermarket shelves, then soaring energy bills. Now petrol stations are running out of fuel. The army is on standby to help out. Less than 2 weeks ago, Boris Johnson's cabinet reshuffle was intended to be a relaunch for the post-COVID era. Instead, his team seems increasingly to be buffeted by events, but not in control. For the Conservatives, who claim to be the natural party of government, this poses serious risks. A reputation for competence takes years to earn. It can be shattered overnight. Now, that is the financial crimes, as we say. Even the financial crimes is admitting that events are out of control. And yet, the same day that the Financial Times is saying that in the editorial, depraved defra, denier, liar, George Injustice is denying all of that. He's saying there is no real shortage of HGV drivers, lorry drivers, no crisis, no problem at all. Shelves are full. Now, this morning, when our campaign visited the shop to buy the papers, the shops didn't have bread, didn't have many of the related items like horsa or other items. Many of the biscuits were not there. Many of the other food items were not there. That is directly from the shopping trip this morning in London. And yet George Injustice, the liar, is in denial. And there is a piece in the letters section, which is rare. It has almost got a truthful letter about HS2. It says that HS2 has become a gravy train going nowhere fast. Well, that's a very dishonest heading. And there is another letter which is headed, hospitality industry is facing a staffing crisis. It's not just the lorry drivers shortage, but restaurants are actually going to go out of business because there is not enough staff. Whatever happened to the staff that were running the restaurants? The hospitality industry in the UK injects millions of pounds into the economy in taxes and helps to make people feel good. Hospitality is not a low-skilled career. There are many roles, both in the kitchen and on the floor, which require a high level of training and extensive experience. For example, sashimi chef, sommelier, floor manager. Many roles without hospitality need to be included on the skills shortage list. This is critical in order to save the industry under Brexit rules. A huge number of individuals have left the industry, and many operators simply cannot stay afloat with reduced staffing levels. Post COVID, customer demand is increasing, but now we don't have the necessary trained staff, etc., etc. So, what it says in the last paragraph, we urgently ask the government to revise current settlement and pre-settlement schemes and the highly skilled migrants lists to address these imbalances. So there is an odd name there. Jeremy King, co-founder and chief executive. Corbyn and King. Now Corbyn is spelled with a I instead of a Y. Nick Jones, Soho House, UK. Babington House. Arjun Waini, restaurateur. Yutham Ottolenghi, chief chef and restaurateur. Sir Rocco Forti, chairman, Rocco Forti Hotels. Michael Bonsa, managing director, the Rosewood Hotel. Andrew Lubb, senior advisor, the Ritz Club. Jeremy Goring, the Goring Hotel. For a full list of signatories, go to ft.com letters. So there are others who signed the letter. And there is the letter which actually gives the game away for the depraved DEFRA criminal George Injustice. This letter is headed worst UK skills gap. Wait for it, is among the cabinet ministers. So they are worse than scum. They are unfit. We have witnessed classic, glaring, and damaging skills gaps across the UK economy driven by Brexit, the pandemic, and a general lack of national manpower planning. That is within, it's a reference to the report September 27, that is yesterday's FT. In response, we have seen a series of knee-jerk reactions by the UK government. Many of its skills gaps for long-distance truck drivers, abattoir workers, etc., were flagged a long time before we reached a potential crisis point. At the same time, we have the UK Prime Minister berating other countries about the efforts they need to make to achieve a net zero carbon position over the next 20 to 30 years. What confidence can we have in the UK's capability to address the rising demand for a wide range of new and emerging green skills, when the UK's ability to address relatively basic skills requirements is so poor? When you are faced with a series of complex, interrelated factors reshaping the economy and the labor market, you require a highly competent, experienced set of ministers. And perhaps this is where we have the largest skills gap and shortage in the UK. It's signed by somebody called Michael Cross, London, TW10 UK, that is West London somewhere. But that's it. there is this admission in that letter in the Financial Times today that the government is unfit and unskilled, and we cannot disagree whatsoever. And this has been going on for 4 years, as depraved DEFRA has been targeting the most innocent baby angel Geronimo.
Same time.
The department says that this is about data protection.
And there is no evidence whatsoever that the financial crimes is actually using even that kind of information or that kind of observation, that it reluctantly allowed to be expressed in the two letters. So this piece by Sarah O'Connor is temporary work visas are a symptom of government failure. Let's have a read of this one. The UK government has blinked. For months, ministers have refused to cede to the meat and transport industries' pleas for access to migrant workers, telling them sternly they should raise pay and conditions to attract locals instead. Now, with food and fuel shortages growing, they have promised visas for 5,000 heavy goods vehicle drivers and 5,500 poultry workers. Who will want these short-term visas, which expire on Christmas Eve? It's unlikely workers from the European Union will queue up. As Thomas Orinsky, a Polish truck driver and journalist, told me, why would you want to go to Britain, jump all these hoops, face all this hostile environment, if you could go to Ireland or Holland and earn more, be respected, drive on nicer motorways with nice truck stops, and be a free European citizen, not a second-class citizen? That sums it up. That sums it up absolutely neatly. This is a dysfunctioning scum of a government personified by the DEFRA, depraved George Injustice, who has been maintaining the 4-year-long hostility against the most innocent baby angel Geronimo. And anyone like the truck driver from the country Poland that Sarah O'Connor reports, quotes, this is unfit government, uncivilized, evil-doing criminals. And she says it seems more likely that visa applicants will come from further afield, license rules permitting. This has proved the case for the UK's seasonal worker pilot, which issues 6-month visas to people to pick fruit, vegetables on British farms. The top 4 sources or source countries so far have been Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, and Moldova. Some have come from as far as Nepal and Barbados. Temporary migration schemes have a long history, from the US Bacaro program for Mexican farm workers between the 1940s and 1960s to Germany's Gastarbeiter program in the 1960s. There are modern versions in Canada, New Zealand, and elsewhere. Advocates say there can be a win-win. Employers get access to workers, migrants get better opportunities. But it's not always that simple. It is common for migrant workers to borrow money to pay for visas, transport, and recruitment fees, which makes them vulnerable to exploitation, etc., etc. So this is a factual, fact-based, evidence-based piece by Sarah O'Connor. And when they do that, when they actually look at the evidence of a situation, facts of a situation, they come to a truthful kind of piece. And it contributes to a better understanding of the particular issue. And this is a rare one. This is a rare one, but this is the one that we are noting. And this one again exposes the stupidity of Boris Johnson and the stupidity and the corruption and criminality on the part of the likes of the liar, depraved Defra, George Injustice. What we shall be doing is continuing in the next part B, on all the themes concerned.